So, by the year 2025, Gardner says that 73% of organizations are going to have at least one AI agent running in a production environment.
Right, nearly three-quarters,
Yeah.
which is huge.
It's a massive leap. But here is the paradox we are looking at today. Right alongside that explosion in adoption, there is a $2.3 trillion annual value loss across global enterprises,
Trillion, with a T.
with a T. And it's happening because businesses are, well, they're completely failing to bridge the gap between their isolated AI experiments and their actual day-to-day operational reality. So if you're a European business leader, a CTO, or a developer listening right now, you have to ask yourself a pretty uncomfortable question. Are you building capital assets, or are you just operating uninsured infrastructure at scale?
And that really is the question, because the timing of this realization could not be more urgent. That $2.3 trillion number is staggering, sure, but there's a ticking clock behind it.
The EU AI Act.
Exactly. The EU AI Act is looming. Full enforcement begins in June 2026. And the reality is that most of the enterprise AI agents we're talking about, systems making autonomous decisions about resources or infrastructure, they fall straight into the high-risk category under that legislation.
Which means serious compliance hurdles.
Massive ones. It means if you want to avoid catastrophic compliance gaps, your governance infrastructure has to be fully operational by the fourth quarter of 2025.
Which is practically tomorrow in corporate timeline terms. So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out exactly how to navigate this production gap without crashing your enterprise. And to do that, we're synthesizing a stack of sources today.
We've got a really detailed strategy report from Ethermind.
Right, that's the AI strategy consultancy division of Etherlink.
Yeah, and we're looking at that alongside some heavy adoption data from McKinsey and implementation metrics from Forrester.
And the data paints a pretty grim picture of how companies are operating right now, doesn't it?
It really does. Forrester found that 58% of current AI implementations just completely lack proper governance frameworks.
Wow, over half.
Over half. And perhaps even more damaging for the business side, 71% of organizations cannot clearly articulate their return on investment within the first 18 months of deployment.
So they're deploying the tech, but they have no structural way to measure what it's actually doing for their bottom line.
Exactly. They're flying blind.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the McKinsey data from their State of AI report is incredibly telling here. They say 64% of enterprises have deployed AI pilots in some capacity.
Yeah.
Playing with the tech in sandboxes.
Right. Experimenting.
But only 22% have actually scaled those implementations across multiple business units.
Yeah.
Moving from pilot to production is just, it's where everything seemed to break down.
Because it's a completely different environment.
Yeah. I mean, think about it mechanically. Running an AI pilot is like having a student driver with an instructor sitting next to them with a dual brake pedal.
Right.
You have total control.
Safe, controlled environment.
Right. But moving to production is like sending a fully autonomous car into rush hour traffic without a steering wheel. The engine works great, but the infrastructure isn't there to handle the autonomy safely.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that missing steering wheel is your accountability framework. In a pilot, if the AI makes a mistake, a human is right there to catch it. It's a closed loop.
But in production, those safety nets are just gone.
Gone. Modern AI agents require multi-layered accountability systems. To survive in that rush hour traffic, the system has to answer 4 fundamental questions systematically every single time it takes an action.
Okay, wait. Accountability sounds great in a boardroom, but at a software engineering level, how do you actually enforce that? Or are we just talking about like generating a standard output log?
No, not at all. A standard log just tells you an event happened. The first question the system must answer is what decision was made. And this requires complete decision logging with what we call temporal context.
Let's ground that a bit. What does temporal context actually mean for a developer building this?
It means capturing the exact state of the world at the millisecond the AI made its choice.
Oh, interesting. So not just the outcome.
Right. Say a supply chain agent decides to reroute a shipment. The log can't just say shipment rerouted. It has to capture the exact weather data, the pricing metrics, the supplier status, all as they existed at that specific fraction of a second.
Because data changes constantly.
Exactly. If you don't freeze the context, you can never accurately evaluate the decision later.
That makes total sense. It's like taking a high-resolution photograph of the data environment.
So what's the second question?
Second is, why was it made? This is where explainability mechanisms are mandatory. The system's record has to map the decision back to the specific inference logic it used.
So absolutely no black box excuses when something breaks.
You can't just say, the algorithm just decided to do it. That doesn't hold up in a courtroom, especially under the EU AI Act. You have to show the math.
Precisely. You prove the pathway the model took. Third question is, who is accountable? When an autonomous system acts, there have to be explicitly defined boundaries for human oversight.
Like an escalation path.
Exactly. If the system hits a scenario with a low confidence score, there needs to be a hard-coded path to a specific human role. And finally, the fourth question, how do we correct errors?
Right, because it will make mistakes.
It will. You need automated rollbacks and continuous improvement loops. If the agent makes a bad call, how does the architecture isolate that error, revert the action, and update the model weight so it never happens again?
Man, look at the mechanics of that. You are basically building a digital nervous system around the AI. It sounds incredibly resource-intensive.
It is, upfront. But the payoff is undeniable.
Let's look at what happens when an organization actually builds this correctly. Because the Ethermind strategy report provides a fascinating engineering case study that moves us from the theory of this accountability chassis into a real-world application.
Yeah, the Building Information Modeling case study, or BIM. It perfectly illustrates why doing this upfront effort works.
Right. So we are looking at a 450-person European engineering firm, and they had a massive operational bottleneck. Their highly skilled architects were spending like 40% of their time on administrative workflows.
Instead of actually designing things.
Exactly. So they brought in an Ethermind consulting engagement to design an integrated AI agent system for their BIM workflows. But they didn't just buy a generic software wrapper and turn it on.
No, they used an AI lead architecture approach, which means they built the governance framework before they deployed a single AI agent.
Which is key.
It's everything. So they deployed these specific agents to do automated design compliance checking. And the way it works is brilliant. The AI isn't just scanning a finished PDF at the end of the month.
It's working in real time.
Right. Every single time an architect drops a digital load-bearing pillar into the BIM software, the AI agent instantly runs a simulated stress test against digitized EU building cons.
So it provides autonomous friction right there if a design choice violates a regulation.
Exactly. And they had other agents analyzing contractor performance, optimizing project schedules. They even had cost prediction agents.
And again, to explain how here the agent wasn't just, searching for the cheapest steel prices online, it was actively analyzing historical contractor delays, cross-referencing global material market fluctuations.
And automatically restructuring delivery timelines to prevent bottlenecks, before the human project managers even knew there was a risk.
Which is wild. And the results they measured after 12 months are just staggering. A 28% reduction in design review cycles.
That took their average from 8 weeks down to under 6 weeks.
Yeah. And they saved $1.2 million annually just through the automated procurement optimization, plus a 67% reduction in schedule overruns.
Those are incredible efficiency gains. But honestly, the most critical metric in that entire case study isn't the money saved.
It's the compliance record.
Yes. During that 12-month period, their project volume increased by 3 times. They were moving 3 times as fast, using autonomous systems to make thousands of micro decisions a day, and they had 0 regulatory compliance violations.
I mean, how is that practically possible? If you triple the speed of production, you naturally triple the surface area for human or machine error.
You do, unless you have implemented an audit trail architecture first. This goes back to your autonomous car analogy. They built the strongest possible chassis. Their audit trail architecture captures absolutely everything through lineage tracking.
Okay, lineage tracking. Let's define that, because it's a term that gets thrown around a lot in data science, but rarely explained well.
Think of lineage tracking as attaching a digital passport to every single piece of data.
A passport, I like that.
Right. Every time data moves, changes, or is used by the AI to make a calculation, it gets a stamp in its passport. The architecture tracks the exact version history of the agent, the input data sources, every single human review event, all permanently logged.
And because they had that, they could prove to regulators exactly how and why their designs met EU building codes at any given millisecond.
Continuous proof. They didn't treat compliance as an afterthought checklist. They built it as foundational infrastructure.
Which leads us to a really fascinating secondary application. Since the engineering firm proved that strict governance actually accelerates efficiency in building design, What happens when we apply this to the physical operation of the building itself?
Facility management.
Right. It's one of the largest enterprise cost centers, and traditionally one of the least digitized.
The ROI potential there is enormous. Deploying predictive maintenance agents can reduce unplanned downtime by 35 to 40%. Energy management agents optimizing HVAC can cut consumption by up to 25%.
Huge saving.
Massive. But here is where we hit a very real friction point.
Yeah, the text poses a really provocative scenario here that every CTO needs an answer for. If an AI agent is running your building autonomously, how does it handle competing priorities?
Right, like a conflict in its programming.
Exactly. Say it's a remarkably hot day in July. Does the energy management agent prioritize the financial mandate to reduce cooling costs, or does it prioritize the occupant comfort of the employees working inside?
Or worse, what if there's an emergency?
Right. If the HVAC system needs an emergency shutdown due to a malfunction, who actually approves that action?
That scenario is exactly why you cannot retrofit governance after deployment. If you wait until a crisis to figure out how your AI makes decisions, you've already lost. To safely answer that HVAC dilemma, you have to look at the AI governance maturity model.
Walk us through how that model applies to a listener's daily reality.
There are 5 levels of maturity. Level 1 is the initial stage. And sadly, this is where 45% of enterprises are stuck today. It's ad hoc, chaotic, and there's virtually no standardized governance.
So if you're managing a dev team right now, level 1 looks like your lead engineer pushing an experimental LLM feature to the portal over the weekend without telling compliance, just to see if it works.
Exactly. And if a level 1 system faces that HVAC emergency, it either shuts down the entire building unnecessarily or it ignores the malfunction because nobody programmed its authority limits.
A massive liability.
Huge. Level 2 is managed, meaning you have some monitoring, but it's reactive. You only know the AI made a bad choice after the employees are sweating in the dark.
So how do we get to a state where the AI handles the July heat wave correctly?
You have to reach at least level 3, which is defined. At level 3, you have standardized governance frameworks and documented decision authorities translated right into the code.
So the system actually knows its own boundaries.
Yes. The architecture dictates under what parameters the agent prioritizes cost, and at what specific temperature it prioritizes human comfort. And for the emergency shutdown, it knows the exact human escalation path.
Like pinging a specific facility manager.
Exactly, pinging their mobile device for cryptographic approval before it cuts the main power.
That level of orchestration requires serious planning. How long does it actually take a company to evolve from the chaos of level 1 to the safety of level 3?
With a structured consulting engagement, it typically takes an enterprise 6 to 9 months to reach level 3 maturity.
6 to 9 months. Okay, let's do the math on that timeline because this is where the reality of the EU AI Act hits hard.
The clock is ticking.
It really is. Enforcement starts June 2026. The infrastructure needs to be operational by Q4 2025. If it takes 9 months just to reach level 3, business leaders listening right now need to be building their 2026 deployment roadmaps yesterday.
Without a doubt.
But I want to push back on something in the report. The financial realities here. The source states that setting up this governance infrastructure costs 20 to 35% of the total AI project investment.
It's a significant chunk.
So what does this all mean? If I'm pitching an AI integration to a CFO, it is going to be incredibly difficult to convince them to sacrifice a third of the budget just for compliance logging.
It's a tough conversation, but it becomes much easier when you look at the alternative. Organizations that underfund governance at the beginning end up incurring 3 to 5 times higher costs later.
Wow, 3 to 5 times.
Yeah. You aren't saving money by skipping governance, you're just deferring a massive penalty. When that poorly governed system hallucinates a facility command or violates an EU regulation, the cost of remediation and legal penalties will dwarf that initial 30%.
It's the difference between buying fire insurance while building the house versus trying to negotiate a policy while the kitchen is actively burning down.
That's it, exactly. And the way to present the fire is through a 5-dimension AI readiness assessment. Before you spend a single euro scaling AI, you measure your capability across technical, governance, organizational, financial, and regulatory dimensions.
Well, technical and regulatory make obvious sense.
Yeah.
But let's unpack organizational and financial readiness. Because organizational readiness is really about change management, right?
Yes. Do your employees actually have the skills to interact with an autonomous agent? Do they trust it enough not to duplicate the work manually?
Human-machine friction.
Exactly. And financial readiness isn't just having the budget, it's investment discipline. Do you have a mathematical framework to measure the ROI transparently?
And once you assess all that, you don't just immediately start coding. The roadmap shows why that 64% get stuck in pilot purgatory. They skip phase 1, which is foundation.
Right, you spend the first 3 months mapping your pain points to the EU AI Act requirements. You cannot jump to a pilot yet.
Phase 2 is design, building the AI lead architecture.
Coding the governance frameworks and escalation paths.
And only then do you reach phase 3, the pilot, which makes phase 4 scaling a mathematical certainty. And phase 5 is optimization.
This rigorous process completely reframes the conversation. Achieving EU AI Act compliance is not just about keeping regulators happy. Doing this by Q4 2025 establishes a highly defensible market advantage.
Because in 2026, the competitors who viewed compliance as an afterthought are going to hit a wall. They'll be auditing black box models while compliant orgs are capturing market share.
It's a structural advantage you can't replicate overnight.
We've covered a massive amount of ground here. So what is the single most important takeaway? For me, it's the absolute rule that governance precedes scale. Accountability is the core operational infrastructure that keeps the business safe. If you scale without it, you are guaranteeing a catastrophic failure cost down the line.
I completely agree. And my primary takeaway builds on that. ROI measurement cannot be an afterthought. It has to be systematically embedded into the AI lead architecture from day one. And I'll leave you with this final thought. In the post-2026 landscape, the market leaders won't be the companies with the smartest AI. They will be the companies with the most auditable, accountable, and transparent autonomous systems. Your compliance isn't just a legal shield. It's your primary competitive weapon. Are you hiring for that reality?
That is a brilliant paradigm shift. You cannot afford to operate uninsured infrastructure at scale. Build the capital assets, build the governance. For more AI insights, visit etherlink.ai.